Imagine the shudder of a 100,000-ton behemoth beneath your feet, the roar of F-35s launching overhead, and then the impossible. 5 ballistic missiles screaming through the night sky, launched by Iran in Operation True Promise 4. Your home, an aircraft carrier floating in the Arabian Sea, is the target. Now, imagine you're off-duty. Your next watch rotation starts in 6 hours. Command says, get sleep. How do you close your eyes when the world outside is exploding? For the 5,000 sailors aboard, this isn't theoretical. It's March 3rd, 2026. And they're living it right now. This is the story of how the U.S. Navy engineers sleep in a war zone, a coffin-sized box, while missiles fly overhead. March 1st, 2026. USS Gerald R. Ford, Arabian Sea. The alerts start at 0347 local time. Iranian Revolutionary Guard launches begin not dozens, but 100 ballistic missiles, 2,000 drones, the largest coordinated attack on a U.S. carrier group in modern history. The Aegis defense systems light up. SM-3 interceptors streak skyward. The carrier's Phalanx CIWS spins, tracking threats, and below deck, in berthing compartments stacked 4 levels deep, 3,000 sailors who aren't manning battle stations face a direct order: stay in your rack unless called. The paradox is visceral. You're inside a floating city that's actively being shot at, and you're supposed to sleep. But here's the thing. It's not a suggestion. Sleep on a carrier is mandated, enforced, monitored by automated systems that track your rest down to the minute. Because in 2017, the Navy learned what happens when sailors don't sleep. 2 destroyers collided with vessels in separate incidents. 17 sailors died. The investigations revealed a single, brutal truth. Fatigue kills as effectively as any missile. Watchstanders had been awake for over 18 hours. Reaction times degraded. Judgment failed. So the question isn't whether sailors will sleep during an attack. It's how the Navy makes its start with where they sleep. The berthing compartment is a maze of triple-stacked metal bunks welded to bulkheads. Each rack, naval slang for bed, measures 6 feet long by 2 feet wide. You get 20 inches of vertical clearance between your face above you. The mattress is 3 inches thick. There's a chain link bottom, a fold-down reading light, and a curtain. That's it. No personal space, no sound dampening, just a metal drawer that happens to fit a human. 3,000 people sleep in these conditions every night. During normal ops, it's challenging. During missile barrages, the ship vibrates with every defensive launch. The 1MC intercom crackles with damage control reports. Boots thunder past your rack as damage control teams sprint to stations. Smells like jet fuel, sweat, and the metallic tang of hydraulic fluid. And yet, sailors sleep. Not because they're superhuman, but because the Navy has spent a decade building a system that forces rest to happen. Strict policies, advanced monitoring tech, ship design on newer carriers, and above all, a cultural shift that treats sleep not as weakness, but as a weapon system that must be maintained. The question we're answering today: what does that system actually look like? How do 5,000 people rest aboard a ship where the ambient noise never drops below 70 decibels, where the floor moves constantly, and where Iranian missiles are being intercepted 2 miles above your head? The modern Navy sleep system was born from tragedy. June 17th, 2017. USS Fitzgerald call with a container ship off Japan. 7 sailors drown in their berthing compartment. August 21st, 2017. USS John S. McCain hits an oil tanker near Singapore. 10 more dead. The investigations weren't just about navigation failures. They dissected the invisible problem underneath. Watch. Both ships had been awake for over 18 hours straight. One sailor testified he couldn't remember the last time he'd slept more than 4 consecutive hours. The Navy's response: OPNAV Instruction 3100.7c. Dry policy language that translates to this: sleep is now a hard requirement, not a nice to have. Here's what changed. Every sailor must get 7.5 hours of sleep opportunity per 24-hour day. Not sleep opportunity, meaning time in your rack with no duties. Alternatively, you can 4 hours of continuous sleep plus a 1.5-hour nap. For non-aviation personnel, it's 8 hours straight, no exceptions. Over a 7-day period, you're guaranteed 75 hours of uninterrupted rest opportunity. Max continuous duty is capped at 18 hours, followed by a mandatory 15-hour break. But policy means nothing without enforcement. Crew Readiness and Endurance. It's an automated data collection network, integrated into something called OLL, the Operational Watch Standing Logistics Platform. Here's how it works. Small sensor hubs installed in berthing areas ping your ID card every time you enter or leave. The system tracks when you rack out when you wake, how long you're actually horizontal. It cross-references your watch schedule, plots your cumulative sleep debt, and flags personnel who are approaching fatigue thresholds. The data flows to a dashboard the command team monitors in real time. During high-tempo operations, like, say, a 5-day Iranian missile campaign, the CRE system becomes the invisible referee. It tells the operations officer, Petty Officer Martinez is at 22 hours of continuous duty. He needs relief in 40 minutes, or the system red flags him. No negotiate. This isn't Big Brother for control's sake. It's risk management. The Navy identified fatigue as a material casualty risk, like a cracked steam pipe or a faulty radar. You wouldn't ignore a failing valve. You don't ignore a failing sailor. Watch rotations enforce the policy mechanically. The carrier runs 24-hour ops, so the crew is divided into rotating shifts. Port and starboard watches for most rates. 4-section rotations for some departments. The goal: no one stands watch for more than 6 hours and everyone gets a full sleep block built into their schedule. Therefore, when missiles start flying, the system already knows who's supposed to be asleep. Non-essential personnel aren't just encouraged to rest, they're ordered to. Because in 12 hours, when the current watch cycle rotates, those sleeping sailors will become the next line of defense. Policy can mandate hours. It can't mandate quality. The older carriers, Nimitz-class ships built in the 1970s and 80s, treat berthing as enough to hold 200-plus sailors in open bays. The air conditioning struggles. Noise bleeds through thin bulkheads from the hangar deck, the catapult machinery rooms, the arresting gear engines. You feel every aircraft launch as odor that rattles your teeth. Sleep becomes a combat sport. You fight for it, you steal it, you never fully win. The Ford-class carriers changed the equation. Berthing compartments on the Ford are capped at 86 sailors per space. Smaller rooms, better climate control, improved acoustics, and attached heads. Bathrooms, in civilian speak, so you're not walking 200 feet down a passageway at 0300. The Navy surveyed thousands of sailors after the Fitzgerald and asking a simple question: what would help you sleep? The feedback drove the redesign. Quieter HVAC, acoustic insulation between berthing and machinery spaces, racks positioned away from high traffic zones. The difference is measurable. A 2023 sleep and mood on U.S. Navy ships, 8 ships over 7 weeks, tracked sailors across multiple deployments. The data showed a direct correlation. Poor sleep quality predicted poor mood, and poor mood predicted degraded performance. The worst mood quartile of sailors averaged shorter sleep duration, lower sleep quality, and fatigue scores, even when controlling for watch rotation type. But here's the twist. The study also found that sleep debt is nearly universal. Even with mandated hours, sailors aboard carriers struggle to accumulate truly restorative rest. Why? Because mandated time in a rack doesn't equal uninterrupted deep sleep. The ship never stops moving. The noise never fully quiets. The stress of knowing you're in a combat zone keeps your nervous system on a low hum of alert. The Ford-class improvements help. They don't solve. Sailors develop coping mechanisms. Earplugs are gear. Foam plugs rated for 32 decibels of noise reduction. Some buy noise-canceling headphones with their own money. Eye masks to block the red night lighting that stays on 24/7. Melatonin supplements, though they're not officially stocked. The real adaptation, though, is psychological. You learn to compartmentalize. The berthing compartment becomes a mental sanctuary, even when it's objectively chaotic. You train your brain. When the curtain closes, the war outside ceases to exist. Pilots master this skill first. They can sleep anywhere, anytime, because there depends on it. Deck crew learn it next. Eventually, everyone does. You fall asleep mid-sentence. You wake up exactly 2 minutes before your alarm every time, because your circadian rhythm rewires itself to the ship's cycle. This is adaptation at the edge of human capacity. And until it doesn't, let's get specific about the space. A standard carrier rack is 6 feet long, 2 feet wide. The mattress, officially a pad, is 3 inches of foam-encased vinyl. Below you, a chain link bottom for ventilation. Above you, 20 inches to the next rack side. If you sit up too fast, you hit your head. This is not an accident, it's calculated. You sleep on your back or side. Claustrophobia is screened for during recruitment. The rack is stacked 3 high. Bottom rack is least desirable. People step your curtain, kick your rack, and you're closest to foot traffic. Middle rack is the sweet spot. Top rack has the most headroom, but you're climbing a ladder every time you need to use the head. Your personal storage is a coffin locker beneath the rack. 2 feet by 3 feet by 1 foot deep. It holds everything you a 6-month deployment. Uniforms, civvies, toiletries, books, laptop, family photos. Most sailors buy vacuum bags to compress their gear. There's an art to packing. What you need daily goes on top. What you rarely touch goes to the bottom. Privacy is the curtain, a polyester panel that velcros shut. It blocks light, not sound. When you pull it closed, you've claimed your 12 cubic feet of personal space in a city of 5,000. That's it. That's your home. Now add noise. The berthing compartment sits below the flight deck, or adjacent to machinery spaces, depending on your division. The arresting gear, 4 massive steel cables that catch landing jets, produces a sound like a freight train slamming into a brick wall every 45 seconds during flight ops. The catapults hiss with steam, then bang, as an 80,000 pound aircraft accelerates from 0 to 150 knots in 2 seconds. You feel it in your bones. Then there's ambient ship noise, ventilation fans, the hum of the nuclear reactors 4 decks below, boots on, me talking above your head, conversations in the passageway. The 1MC intercom, which can activate at any moment. General quarters, all hands man your battle stations. That alarm is 120 decibels. It's designed to wake the dead. During True Promise 4, sailors adapted to a new rhythm. The alerts became background noise. The first night, March 1st, every klaxon snapped people awake. By March 3rd, sailors stayed asleep unless their specific division was called. Your brain learns to filter. Critical equals wake. General announcement equals sleep through it. But then, battle stations are called. When general quarters sounds, essential personnel sprint to their posts. Non-essential personnel, roughly 40% of the crew, are ordered to remain in berthing unless needed. Why? Because the safest place during from exposed areas. Berthing compartments are deep inside the hull, surrounded by void spaces and armored bulkheads. You're told to stay in your rack, curtain closed, out of the way of damage control teams. So you lie there, horizontal, earplugs in, eyes closed, feeling the ship lurch hearing muffled explosions as SM-3s intercept threats miles overhead. Knowing that if a missile penetrates the defense umbrella, your rack might become your coffin. And somehow, you sleep. Operation True Promise 4 lasted 5 days. March 5th, 2026. Over those 120 hours, the Gerald R. Ford's air defense systems engaged 487 targets. 32 missiles and drones penetrated the outer defense ring and were destroyed within 5 miles. None struck the ship. The sailors who made that possible weren't just the ones manning the Aegis consoles or launching interceptors. They were the watchstanders who'd slept 6 hours earlier, woke up sharp, and took over the defense network without missing a beat. The pilot sacked out between sorties and launched again at 0400. The ordnance handlers who'd grabbed 4 hours of sleep before hauling 500-pound bombs back to the flight deck. Sleep wasn't a luxury. It was ammunition. This is the part civilians don't see. The policies, the CRE system, the Ford-class berthing upgrades. They're all engineering solutions to a biological problem. But engineering only goes so far. At some point, it's just a sailor in a metal box, choosing to trust the system, choosing to let go of the fear, choosing to rest because the mission requires it. That's discipline at a level most people never encounter. It's not about following orders. It's about overriding survival instincts. Your brainstem is screaming danger. Your ship is under attack. Adrenaline is spiking, and you close your eyes anyway, because in 6 hours, you need to be functional. In 12 hours, you need to be sharp. The mission doesn't pause for your comfort. The Navy has spent billions perfecting carrier operations. Nuclear propulsion, electromagnetic catapults, Aegis missile defense, but the most critical system aboard, the one that keeps 5,000 humans operating at peak capacity for months at sea. It's not a machine. It's a mandated rest cycle, enforced by policy, enabled by design, and executed by sailors who sleep when missiles fly overhead. Every hour of sleep secured is an hour of combat readiness gained. Every sailor who wakes up rested is a potential life saved in the next crisis. The next you see a carrier strike group deployed, remember, half the crew is asleep at any given moment. Not because they're lazy, because the system demands it. If this glimpse into the invisible machinery of naval power fascinates you, there's more. Next week, how aircraft carriers handle casualties when the nearest hospital is 500 miles away. The medical bay aboard a carrier isn't just an infirmary. It's a level 2 trauma center with an operating room and a morgue. Subscribe so you don't miss it.